Okay, so I have my curve now, and remember I can use my curve either direction. I can flip it over, and I want to think about it as though I've got a right angle here that I'm joining with the right angle over here. And because this looks a little flat, if I want to, I can drop that down a line width. So I'm blending this right angle into that right angle and rotating it around until I'm happy with that curve. So there's one curve. And then on the other side, since I lowered the line, I need to come in at that same level. So I'm blending from this right angle into that one. So I'm going to trim this section out together. And if you want to go to the how to drape a basic pattern video and make a pattern from it, the traditional 4 basic pieces, front and back skirt, front and back bodice, that will correspond with what I just did there. Okay, while it's taped together, I'm going to trim it off. Keeping in mind that truing and balancing is connecting right angles with smooth curves. I have a right angle on this corner, and you can see that when I line the ruler up with it. It isn't as much of a right angle right there, but it's a smooth curve between. Right here I have a right angle with a smooth curve between, another smooth curve, and my center, front, back, and side seams are all right angles. Anything that I'm doing here works just the same full scale. It's just easier to get it all in the picture in half scale. So now that I've got my nice smooth curve and my right angles, I can separate them. And someone always asks why the front skirt is wider than the back skirt. And that just depends on the form you're fitting or the person you're fitting, and it will change from person to person. So just get used to that it's not always going to be the same thing. Typically, the back skirt is bigger than the front skirt because it has to fit over your gluteus maximus. But it comes down to whether or not where your armhole placement is, and the side seam has to come down at a 90-degree angle straight below the center of your armpit. So apparently this little dress form has an armhole that's a little bit backward. But it could be either direction, but the balancing process is the same either way. So I've still got everything lined up the way I wanted to, and if I want to lengthen my basic pattern, my sloper pattern, I could just extend them both straight down and keep them at a right angle, but I'm going to leave them this size because it's easier to fit them on a piece of paper and easier for you to see on the screen. So now I'm going to get 2 more pieces of paper out and trace them on because we're going to make a flared skirt pattern by closing all of the darting into the skirt. So instead of having the dart up here at the top, we're going to move the dart to the bottom, and we won't sew it as a dart, but it will be flare. And I usually like to just line this up on the edge of the paper so I have one less line to cut. And I never aspired to making YouTube videos. It's working out okay. Makes me nervous. Makes me self-conscious of this crazy bruise I have on my arm. No one's beating me. I just went outside and opened the electrical panel and it slammed on my arm. So it was just an accident and it'll go away in another week or two. And I can see right here where I slipped with the scissors. Oh, and you can't see that. It's not all on the screen, is it? So I'm just going to make sure I bring that down the rest of the way. Okay, so I have the whole thing traced on. This is dress form number 58. Sloper. Front skirt. If I were sewing it together as a straight skirt, I would cut one on the fold, and I'm going to put size 8. And this is the center front, and I'm going to put the fold symbol on it, but since it's a sloper, it could become whatever we want it to be. And if you'll be sure and put your names up there, even if it gets mixed up, I will know whose it is. Okay, one more thing before I move on. I want to make sure that the center of this dart is parallel to the center front. So I'm lining up this side of the ruler and making sure that it's parallel. Then I'm going to draw that line and just double check. And it looks like, well, it might just be where I drew the line, but it looks like I might be a tiny bit off right there. So the center of the dart has to be parallel to the center front, because when this dart is sewn together, you want to make sure that if you have a stripe or a plaid, that it comes together nicely. It's also more figure flattering. So if you happen to have, mine is 5/8 across the top. Oh, can't use the end of the ruler that's broken, can I? Okay, so I've got half. Actually, if I make it smaller right there, and it looks like I actually drew the line in the wrong place over here when I was tracing it, so I'm just going to erase that, and then everything is fine. So that's my line, and my dart is equal on both sides. And you can hear my little dog Ginger running around on the floor. She can't make up her mind where she wants to sit, and I enjoy her company